Hi, Paddy Bergin here, author of Mutual Mindfulness. Incidentally, if anyone wants to get this book, you can get it on Amazon, or you can go via my website, which is paddybergin.co.uk. I want to just talk a little bit about unconscious and how we can connect to it, how we can feel and notice when our unconscious is involved and how to get in touch with it. We are doing certain things every day, probably, which are just done unconsciously, literally. We don't think about it. They're so grooved in, they're so wired in that they're habits. I mean, most habits are being run by the unconscious. So here's a little example of what it's like to do something new and unfamiliar. But first of all, just cross your arms the way you normally do. Yeah? So you have a way of crossing your arms, you don't think about it. It's easy. So it's wired in, it's a habit. So that's the normal way. Now do it the other way, with the other arm over the top and the other. Now that is not smooth operation. You've really got to think about it. The normal way, just do it. Now the other way, you've got to think about it, not so smooth. But if you do that about a half a dozen times, it begins to get wired in now. And before you know it, it's a habit. And you wouldn't have to think about it. Now do it the other way, and it's not quite so smooth, so it's a good thing to alternate. So this is an example of learning something new, which at the outset is a little bit uncomfortable. But as long as you keep practicing it, it becomes automatic and it will be run by the unconscious. So practice will wire in these activities. In anything we do, if you want to get better at it, practice. Another simple example is if you drive, you probably had the experience of driving from one place to another. Maybe it's a 30-minute drive or something. And when you arrive, you realize you haven't got any sort of memory, any conscious memory of doing the driving. So the question is, who did the driving? So while you were driving, maybe you're listening to the radio, maybe you're thinking about where you're going, what you're going to be doing, or something else. Your unconscious mind is taking care of all of the driving. If anything untoward happens, you're immediately brought back to consciousness and the foot hits the brake. That's another automatic action. So being able to recognize that a lot of what we're doing is being run by the unconscious, we can begin to learn how to communicate with the unconscious. Carl Jung, who I would say started the whole area of psychotherapy, he talked about symptoms, and one of the things he said is that the message is in the symptom. Okay, so that's it for today, and I'll see you again tomorrow.